All right. We are live and in effect. Once again, JV Wins is here. Dogon SS is here. Thank you to everyone who is following along with us on the Conscious Approach channel on YouTube. We certainly appreciate it. If you enjoy the commentary in this or any other video on this channel, do your boys a big old solid. Hit that like button, and moreover, just let us know what you think about what we are talking about in the videos. Leave a comment. Hit the subscribe button if you're so inclined. All of that good stuff. Shouts out to the Hurricanes who
Yeah. Never fail to disappoint. That's what I'll tell you that. Cocaine. Yeah, laugh right now, bro. We play November 11th. We'll see you then.
Yeah. You guys got to stop it with these meltdowns during the season, man. I'm rooting for you whether you realize it or not, except for when you play Florida State. But I just had to get that little jab in there as we get things started. But with those pleasantries out of the way, thank you to everybody who is continuing to join the tribe. We certainly appreciate it. We'll go ahead and get things started this week. And friend of the channel, Jada Pinkett Smith.
That's right.
We have talked about her often, and she was very much so the topic of discussion over the last week. Her book, which is called Worthy, I think is the name of her book. So she's doing press. The book is out, and so she's doing all of her interviews and talking about it. And she did the first interview, I believe, with Hoda Cobb, who's like a daytime TV talk show host / journalist. And that's what has a lot of the people talking. The streets are doing a lot of talking when it comes to Jada Pinkett Smith because of some of the revelations that came out of this interview.
Boy.
Chiefly among them was the revelation that they haven't even really been together since 2016. So that kind of sheds some light on certain things that have come to pass over the course of recent history. But obviously we'll let her speak for herself. So we're going to go ahead and get this thing queued up here, and then we are going to, of course, give our thoughts on the ongoing saga that is the Smith family. And our channel isn't necessarily like one which gets into celebrity gossip. We more so use the content as a spotlight to give our thoughts on greater societal implications, or at least that's the idea. So I don't want anyone who is new to this channel to get this confused with Conscious Approach being about celebrity gossip. It's not, or at least we try for it not to be. I just wanted to put that out there just in case, So here we go. We're not going to play this entire thing. We're just going to play a couple of excerpts. But here are some of the highlights of that interview between Hoda Cobb and Jada Pinkett Smith, which of course gets into her marriage to Will Smith.
There are so many surprising things in the book, but the thing that surprised me the most, that I actually had to reread it because I said, is this true?
Right.
Was that in 2016, you and Will decided that you were going to live completely separate lives.
Yes.
It was not a divorce on paper,
right,
but it was a divorce. So from the year 2016, which is 7 years ago now,
yes,
y'all have been apart.
Yeah.
But in
All right, so now I'm going to fast forward here a little bit. Okay, here we go.
I feel like you're a straight talker.
I am.
Except you're not sometimes.
Yeah.
So why do that? Like, what was the reason?
I think just not being ready yet. Still trying to figure out between the two of us how to be in partnership, right? And in regards to how do we present that to people, And we hadn't figured that out.
During our walk in Baltimore, Jada reflected on their breakup.
Why did the relationship fracture?
Oh, why a fracture? That's a lot of things.
Yeah.
And I think By the time we got to 2016, we were just exhausted with trying. I think we were both kind of still stuck in our fantasy of what we thought the other person should be.
Oh. Jada says she considered a legal divorce, but could never go through with it.
I made a promise that there will never be a reason for us to get a divorce. We will work through whatever. And I just haven't been able to break that promise.
Okay, that's enough.
What?
All right, so a lot of people are talking about this. A lot of people are kind of looking at her or looking at this as another example of how it is kind of dragging Will Smith's name through the mud, making him look bad, making him kind of look like a victim of abuse, so to speak. Um, you know, another thing that came out of this, which was interesting, we didn't play it, during this particular segment, is she mentioned how she was surprised when Will Smith went and slapped the shit out of Chris Rock. She mentioned that she was surprised that he referred to her as his wife. I guess she was thinking, wow, this dude actually on this public stage called me his wife when we ain't even been together for what at the time was 6 years. And he went up there and did that and put on that show and said, keep my wife's name out your mouth. She was shocked that he did that and referred to her as his wife. But, obviously there are several different directions that this can go. We've obviously lamented on this state of affairs in past videos here. But what do you make of the most recent comments made by Jada? Is she
Honestly,
an abuser or, what do you make of this?
well, it's disgusting. And I think she's an abuser. I think this woman is on full blown narcissist mode. I mean, this is as self absorbed as you can get, And I was joking last time we were doing this thing. I was like, "Girl, write a book if you feel like explaining all this stuff." Hey, man, and you was like, "Hey, bro, I think she is, working on a book or something." And so for her to come out with a book, all right, but these press runs are equivalent to what I told her to stop doing and put it in a book. These press runs are just as damning, I'm pretty sure, as I know the book got more crap, in it, just slandering him, making him look like a cuck, a loser. I'm pretty sure, it gets worse, I'm sure, between the pages, but the average person is not going to take their time out to read those pages, is my point. So, but one thing about it is when she's going on all these press runs and dragging his name through the mud, publicly, the most layman person, the most illiterate person now knows their business. And I just think that this is just too much. I mean, I know she's promoting the book. It probably is going to be some bestseller. But, with this garbage, the Tupac stuff, listen, bro, I've seen stuff where she's around here talking about something. Oh yeah, because Tupac had alopecia.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, yeah, Tupac's bald, but come on, we doing this? Like, who cares? And she's doing a lot of who cares talk. Nobody cares about this. We'll listen. We don't care. And the more we hear this stuff, we go, geez, Will, what have you been going through all these years? But the crazy part about it is, I think Will somehow likes the humiliation. I think he likes this. The average man is looking at this going, oh man, poor dude. Him, he's going, give me more pain. And no, bro, I seen some clip. I don't know if it was new or old. I should have put this up too. But he was saying some stuff like, I'm glad you got this stuff off your chest or whatever. And, all this tells me is that 20 years ago, I should have hugged you harder. Yeah, this is where he at, bro. He love this. And then after that, she said, see, that's why I can't divorce his ass. Because he loves it. So this is a weird situation. It makes marriages and whole, I've seen a lot of women come to the defense of this garbage in the sense of defending Will. and telling Jada to shut her mouth. So I would have been concerned in any other time for people to be looking at this the wrong way and trying to out their situations and trying to embarrass their man. But I think a lot of people are disgusted with this. And the thing that got me the most is that a lot of women are disgusted by this. Nobody likes this stuff. And I think the only reason why it would be a bestseller is just so people could be nosy. But she's doing a hell of a job because it's going to sell. But what about you, man? How do you feel about all of this? Tupac, alopecia, her marrying Tupac while he in jail. You know, her allegedly saying, I don't know if you've seen that, her allegedly saying that Chris Rock was trying to tap that. You know,
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
So what do you make of all of this shenaniganry?
Yeah, she also said that Will Smith wanted to put hands on Tommy Davidson because Tommy Davidson asked her out on a date or something like that. So there's all kinds of ancillary stories that are coming out of this.
Mm-hmm.
Like basically it's just becoming a soap opera, and it's becoming
Mm-hmm.
like it's becoming made for TV or made for the internet type stuff. And you know, modern society is in the business of consuming content at all times.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can feed the content machine, it really does feed back into the age old adage of all publicity is good publicity. Just be talked about. And as long as you're being talked about, right or wrong, good or bad, ultimately it's a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's the wave that they're riding. And I think that both of them respectively kind of look at it at this point as a running joke. I don't think either of them care. I think Will is doing his part to contribute to the business of the promotion of the book. Both of them are so enthralled in Hollywood. I don't think either of them at this point care about any sort of negative backlash within the context of how this can look in terms of family and marriage and relationship dynamics. They're not concerned with that. We're well past that point, honestly. Maybe we were having that conversation when they did the Red Table Talk, and he was sitting up there answering questions about how he felt directly from her about her smashing her son's friend. Maybe we were at that point then, but I think at this point it's a production. I think at this point it's
Yeah,
become
I
a
agree.
production. Um, and the thing with Jada is you made this point on this channel previously, and I don't even know if we were talking about these
Mm.
two in particular. It may have been a related topic. I think it may have been Ime Udoka. I think that's what it was. We were talking about Ime Udoka and Nia Long because that whole fallout was taking place. And the point I was making a point about patriarchy.
Mm.
And you were saying, yeah, I hear what you're saying, but at the end of the day, men don't talk. So it's always going to be more of an environment that is conducive to a woman getting her side of the story out and being able to portray herself in whatever light she wants. Because by and large, when it comes to this type of thing, it's not really in a man's DNA to do this.
Mm-hmm.
So Will Smith, I doubt, is going to come out at any point with his own book in
Mm-hmm.
which he talks about his side of the story and his perspective when it comes to their marriage. This is something that's pretty much going to be a one-sided thing because talking about sex lives and marriage and relationships and family, that's pretty much something that men don't do publicly for the most part. And so it creates an environment in which Jada Pinkett, by all intents and purposes, gets to run roughshod and tell her side of the story because Will is never going to have a retort. I don't think. Um, I don't see a scenario in which Will is going to write his own book and be like, here's how I feel about this. And this is what I was going through. And this is what was happening with me, which led to this, that, and the third. I think that this is just going to be a situation where Jada gets to tell Jada's story. And so long as Jada gets to tell Jada's story, Jada gets to benefit from whatever narrative she gets to create by way of how her relationship or family dynamic resulted when things are all said and done. And, in terms of Will, I just kind of look at Will Smith at this point as a victim of Stockholm syndrome. Um, I was talking to my cousin a couple weeks ago, and we were talking about two different people unrelated, and we were talking about how, there's this guy um, basically bending over backwards to bend the knee to this chick who he's with. And she's sort of being able to play psychological warfare with his mind. And by the way, this thing goes both ways. It's not just something that men can, this isn't just something that women can exact, men can exact it too. It just depends on who's in the position of power and who's in the position of subjugation.
Mhm.
But he was like, she's running roughshod on this guy psychologically, and she's going to be able to get away with it because for him, he looks at her as the best that he can do. Like for him, she's the pinnacle of what he can attain and achieve as a woman. So she just has this psychological upper hand because it's going to take a whole lot for him to feel as though he's reached his breaking point and is no longer willing to compromise on all the things that he has thus far been compromising on. And I kind of feel like, in a roundabout way, and I could be wrong about this, this is just kind of my opinion, outside perspective looking in. I kind of feel like Will Smith was Stockholm into this. I feel like for whatever reason, he looked at Jada as like the pinnacle of attainment in terms of partnership, relationship, wife, woman. And I feel like in his mind, he felt as though he was hard pressed to find a suitable replacement. And so that, coupled with what looks to me to be his apparent lack of self-esteem in this particular department for him personally, combined to create this situation in which he was willing to compromise whatever morals or values he may have in lieu of trying to make her as happy as he can make her. But at the end of the day, and she alluded to it in that clip when she talked about wanting to let go of the idea of what the other person should be. If you are not already what this person perceives to be the best or the top, you know, she's going to be thinking about what her life can be like if she had that. And there's going to be little that you can do to create the impression in her mind that you are that if she didn't already feel that way about you. So you doing this constant thing where you're trying and trying and trying to no avail puts you in a position to in the future look like someone who was kind of ran over. And again, the fact that we are able to speculate in this manner this way on videos like this is due to the fact that Will is probably not going to come out with his side of the story. I would be surprised if he did. If he came out with a book of his own where he details how he feels about everything, I'd be shocked. Because for the most part, men just don't do stuff like that. Even men in Will Smith's position. So that's kind of what this looks like to me. I kind of feel like there's a lot of different things going on simultaneously. I feel like Jada is benefiting from the content factory that is modern culture. And she's also benefiting from the fact that when it comes to marriage and family dynamics, for the most part, publicly, women are the ones who disclose that kind of stuff for personal and financial gain more so than men do, for whatever reason. And since Will isn't going to come out with his own side of the story in a similar way, we're left to kind of give our 2 cents on what this looks like from an outsider's perspective. And I just kind of think that Will was Stockholm into this situation. And you know how Stockholm syndrome works. It isn't that you feel as though you're being abused. You don't. It's actually quite the opposite. You think that you're doing something for the greater good, when in actuality, there is a modicum of abuse that is taking place. But, you know, when it comes to that Stockholm dynamic, the abusee takes on a lot of the ideologies and the sensibilities of the abuser. And you start to believe that you're doing the right thing, even though really you're being taken advantage of. That's just kind of how what it looks. That's what it looks like to me. I feel like Will spent a lot of time, an inordinate amount of time, trying to get her to act in a design manner. We mentioned that, or at least I mentioned that when we talked about Jonah Hill and this other woman. He tried to set boundaries. The woman wasn't receptive to his boundaries. And as a result of the relationship dissolving, she's trying to put him on blast as an abuser. And my point was, hey, Jonah Hill, you saw those kind of things when you were trying to get her to acquiesce to your boundaries. So you should have cut it off right then to save yourself the agony of having to go through this public cleanup job to try and make yourself look as though you're not an abuser, despite her claims. And I think Will spent a lot of time trying to get Jada to act in a design manner, for whatever reason. We can speculate on some of those reasons all we want, but I think it's a cautionary tale for other people in the world. Like, you know your worth, self-esteem, all of that cookie cutter mumbo jumbo that we don't necessarily need to get into. But moreover, like, you can set your boundaries, or at least you can attempt to. But when you know in your heart of hearts, when you're dealing with somebody who doesn't perceive you as an individual who can muster up, and instead of trying to fit that square peg into a round hole, just call a spade a spade, let bygones be bygones, and try to best position yourself to be perceived by another individual as that pinnacle. Because when you spend so much time trying to force the issue, you get books and tell-alls and Oscar slaps. So that's just kind of how I look at that one.
Yeah, I mean, I never looked at it in the angle of it. I mean, I did, but this episode here with this latest thing as like a full blown production, as you mentioned, him playing in his role, and most likely people going to go read the book or get the book or what have you, you know. So looking at them playing this in tandem makes kind of some sense here, especially to drive up sales, because what else does she got popping? I mean, we've already covered the fact that she's not even really a good actress. She's like, nobody's hollering at her for roles or nothing. Her best bet is to be in some Tyler Perry movie or something at this point. So, but nobody wants to see her act. Nobody cares. And so she needs to be relevant somehow. And so she's using all of this as a way to be relevant, a way to distract, and a way to just, all this good stuff. So yeah, I appreciate that angle of them just being in this in cahoots. But mind you, I saw a video. It was hilarious, but I saw a video of her talking about talking about the slap, and she was like, I didn't even, at first I thought it was a skit. She said, first I thought it was a skit, and she was like, then when Will slapped her, I couldn't, from my angle, I couldn't even tell if he really slapped him. And but the video I saw was like a meme, and they had Pinky from Next Friday, and he was like, say it again, oh, hopping around all that crazy stuff. It was hilarious, but I'll send it to you. But the whole thing but I looked at that and I was like, now remember when we first covered this, I already had my full hat on then. I was like, man, it seemed fake. Chris Rock looking at the camera talking about one of the greatest nights in television history. What make you say that?
Yeah.
So I thought the whole thing was a production, but the backlash they received from all of this, I don't think they foresaw that. I didn't know what they thought they was going to get from this, but it was such backlash that I was like, maybe this stuff is real. I don't know what the hell's going on no more. And then for her to say that, I felt like that was a way of saying, in a way, like, maybe y'all was, skitting it up there. What are y'all doing? But now that you mentioned, this is Hollywood. And they're doing stuff beyond the film now. They're bringing it into people's, everyday feeds, in their lives with these productions that are going on. And I think that there's something to this whole thing. It's something just wrong. It's off. The whole thing's off. And but yeah, I don't care for any of this. What she's saying. I think this is just bad for the culture. But the one thing that I said earlier that I still appreciate is that there's so many people calling this out for the garbage that it is. Like, nobody cares nor wants this. And we joked last time, it was like, hey man, they're gonna come out again with some other bull, and we're gonna cover it here at the approach. And then sure enough, here they are. But the streets have had enough. And I love it. So kudos to anybody out there watching, and kudos to anybody that clicked on this video that was tired of the shenanigans. We are too here at the Conscious Approach. Why don't you hit that like and subscribe while you're at it?
Yeah, I think the last time we talked about it, which at this point had to be like 6-8 months ago, or something like that. I don't know. It's been a minute, but I've even said back then she's currently in the process of writing a book. Don't be shocked if she's because she's gonna do press for it, and there's gonna be all these revelations and side stories, and there's gonna be more to come with this, and so it just reeks of a Hollywood production in a lot of ways. But I do think that it highlights the reason why I do think that there is some substance to it amidst the production part of it is because Will's not doing the same.
Mhm.
So Will ain't writing his book. You know, as far as I know, they're not getting a movie to go. There's nothing coming from his side of it. So it kind of seems like he is a willing participant, pawn even, in her elaborate orchestration in all of this.
Yeah.
And because he looks like a willing pawn, that speaks to me of someone who is sort of willfully or not going along with this thing when the truth could be he would rather not. And so I think that there's some part of this where we can peel back the layers and dissect what you can do as an individual if you're not built for stuff like this, to not find yourself in a situation where you are doing stuff like this. Because otherwise, I do agree that it is buffoonery. I think it's total buffoonery. And I'm glad that people are saying this is trash. The best thing that could happen to the culture, quote unquote, is if nobody goes out and buys her book. That's the best thing that
could
happen.
happen.
Yeah, I know, but that would be most ideal is if no one went out and bought that book. Honestly, crazy, man. Shouts out for the content anyway, though.